Welcome to this edition of Saturday Spotlight Tour. I'm Andrea Kunard, Associate Curator of Photographs at the National Gallery of Canada, and the curator of this show, Moyra Davey, the Faithful. Moyra Davey is a Canadian, New York-based artist who works with film, video, photographs, and books. She creates these incredibly beautiful books that are much desired by collectors. In this exhibition, we've created a really beautiful catalog that people can purchase through the National Gallery Boutique. And we've got 6 of her videos, which are absolutely fantastic to watch. And I certainly hope that people come and have a good afternoon sitting down and watching the work of this marvelous artist. Today, I thought what I'd do is show you some of the work that's in the first room and relate it to something that I thought I'd experiment with Moyra, and that is choosing works from our National Gallery collection, works of artists and photographers that she's long admired. And there's a number of them. We couldn't fit them all into this show, but we've got a nice selection for people to come and look at and make up their own mind about how Moyra's work relates to those very famous artists. And I'll talk about those guys in a second. But first of all, I thought I'd talk about this work right here, the work that you're going to see in the Oval Room when you first come into the gallery, called The Subway Riders. Throughout her career, Moyra has struggled with the representation of the human form in her work. It comes through a long inquiry into feminism and its ideas of who should be speaking for whom and why, and how we look at other people through the photographic lens. She struggled with this for quite a while and decided not to use the human form in her subject for a number of years. And then one day, she was riding on the subway and she became totally entranced by people who were writing down in notebooks, kind of analog style, not using their computer tablets, not using their iPhones, not going virtual. They were writing in books and journals, and they were absorbed in their tasks. And this was something she became quite captivated with. So she started to photograph them. She was a little nervous about what she was doing, but she really wanted to capture this moment of people riding in the subway. And this room here, there's a long work that's put almost like a grid, a very loose grid on the wall. And it's very special in a lot of ways. We see the subway riders, we see them looking off into the distance, looking out, looking at one another, absorbed in their writing. What we really like to get for people coming to see this show and coming to see this work is this idea of movement. You go through this room and you can almost feel the subway moving, the subway train moving through the tunnels. And then the other thing that's very special about what Moyra was doing at this point was she was mailing her photographs. She would take a photograph and put it into a printer, make it into about 16 by 20 size, and then she would fold it and tape it and send it through the mail to somebody, a recipient of somebody, a friend of hers, a gallery dealer, something like that. And then they would return the work, and then she would unfold it, and that would become part of the work. So you can see here all of the works that have been sent through the mail, the post, not by email, the post. And they have all the marks of the different tape that she used to tape the photographs together. You can see the stamps to bail the works out. All the creases and folds and the marks that happen when something goes through the mail system. And for me, that was really, really interesting. Not only is she dealing with the subject of the body, she's also dealing with the very material aspects of the photograph. So what we've done is we've pinned them to the wall, and you can see they slightly float out so that there's a shadow underneath. And you can actually feel the physical presence of these works in the gallery space. The other thing that's really new about this exhibition is the inclusion of some of her most recent work in black and white photography. Now, Moyra has worked in the past, in the 70s, she was taking pictures of her sisters, her family, and their friends. And then, as I say, she left that subject and she came back to it with the Subway Writers series and in other works that you'll see in this exhibition. And there's some incredibly beautiful black and white photographs of her son and his friends. And there's so many kind of poignant moments in these works of youthfulness and the vulnerability of the subject, the direct gaze to the camera, the holding of a hand, the hesitancy is captured in gelatin silver prints, which have a very different feel to them than inkjet prints. And again, there's this real appreciation for material. The lighting in the photographs is amazing, and it gives this kind of sculptural presence. The subject has an immense presence in these works. So I really encourage you to come and look at this beautiful work that Moyra has done. So for the show, we have chosen some works from the National Gallery collection to include. And one of the groupings of works that we have in this area here is a work chosen that has the subject of the subway. And there were a number of photographers who chose the subway as their subject matter. Walker Evans being a very famous example of that, Cy Cattleson, Rosalind Fox Solomon, Bruce Davidson. So we have some Walker Evans for people to look at, and a Cy Cattleson. And Cattleson was part of the Photo League, so he went down into the subway to photograph the everyday worker on their way to their job. And the work that we have up in the gallery right now is a very, very beautiful work taken from the outside looking into the subway train. And you can see the faces of the women as they talk to it. There's a couple talking to one another, and there's one looking off into the distance. And there's this beautiful little portrait. You see the framing of the subway window as Cattleson captured it, and indicates the kind of changing mood of people in the subway as they go to work, as they're staring off into space, as they're talking to their friends. So there's this very, very intimate portrait of the everyday and subjectivity, people who are thinking of something else, a very interior kind of state. And for the Walker Evans, it's very much the same thing. He wanted to capture the spontaneous portrait, not the staged one that you see in the studio. He wanted to go down into the subway. He had a little detective camera, and he surreptitiously took these portraits of people. And you see all of the changing moods of people as they ride the subway, looking off again, talking, whatever. And it creates this kind of poetic moment in everyday life. And for me, it was very important to bring that kind of sensibility into a space, to give Moyra's work a historical kind of context, that her work is contemporary art, absolutely, but it has these deep roots in the history of photography. So that when you look at these lovely portraits of people in the subway and compare them to the portraits that she's taken of her family, her friends, her son, and his friends, then you can see all of these interconnections that have happened in photography and the power of the medium to be able to express these very deep kinds of emotional states in their subjects. One of the photographs that we have in this exhibition is by Julia Margaret Cameron. It's called Mrs. Duckworth, who was a niece of Julia Margaret Cameron, and ultimately Mrs. Duckworth was the mother of Virginia Woolf. And it's a beautiful portrait. It's done in 1867. And we know that Cameron was very expressive in her use of photography. She was criticized for that during her lifetime. She used photographic chemicals and lights and paper and everything that goes along with making a photograph in a very expressive way, and made these gorgeous portraits. And we see Mrs. Duckworth looking out at us, the viewer, as if emerging from the dark. And it's a powerful, powerful expression of an interior state at a time when people were still trying to understand all those kinds of factors when it came into creating a portrait, either in a painting or in a photograph, especially in a photograph, which was considered a mechanical recording device. But Cameron used it in a much more expressive way. And again, that links to the other photographs that we see by Moyra in the exhibition, this powerful way of using photography to give a subject life in the present and a continuity into the future.